Welcome, everybody, to today's Jülcast. The topic for today is marketing strategies. Specifically, is it working? I'll be looking at setting business goals, looking at your current marketing tactics and measuring their ROI, considering new tactics, and overall how inbound marketing is essential for a successful marketing strategy for B2B businesses. This webcast series is part of our Jülcast summer series. It features 15-minute webinars by the experts at sMarketing Agency, and it'll be focused on all things inbound. A few administrative things before we get started. First, please mute your microphone. If you've called in, simply mute your phone. Otherwise, if you're on a desktop mic, hover over the bottom left of your screen and click on the microphone icon to mute yourself. And secondly, we're so excited to have you on today, and we hope that you'll join us again. If you're unfamiliar with any of the terms that we're using today, please do let us know. We want to make these educational webcasts as short and as useful as possible, but obviously they're not useful if you don't understand what we're saying. There is a chat pane available in the video screen for any questions. You can also tweet at us at JewelCreative or use the hashtag LearnWithJewel. I'm Alicia Westfall, your host for today, and I'm an inbound marketing strategist at Jewel. I'm focused on bringing together research with a content marketing plan, particularly focused on targeted messaging. First, what is a marketing strategy? A strategy is the cornerstone of your marketing plan. It tells you how you're going to get from point A to point B by establishing who you're targeting, what their needs are, where they'll be searching for your product and your brand, and what your organization needs to do to effectively reach them. It's the foundational element to your marketing team reaching its goals. I like to think of it as a map, so you can easily see how you're going to get from where you are to where you want to be going. And how do you know it's working? Well, quite simply, you know it's working when it's meeting your goals. Many organizations start marketing without a plan. They focus on the artwork, the logo, the branding, setting up a website or social media accounts without a strategy in place to use those tools. And then they're frustrated that they're not seeing the results. The real question here is, what did you expect? I didn't mean that sarcastically. Okay, maybe just a little bit sarcastically. But what I mean is it's impossible to hit a goal that you've never set. So let's go ahead and start there. What is it that you want your marketing strategy to do? Do you want to let people know that you exist? Do you want them to visit your website? Do you want to tell them, or do you want them to tell their peers and colleagues about you? Do you want current clients to recommend your product? Do you want to generate leads and sales? You need to have just one goal. You must select just one because most brands we work with don't have unlimited budgets for marketing. And if you do, kudos to you. The B2B companies we work with typically choose to focus on lead generation to grow qualified sales and leads. So we'll use that as our example for today. Once that goal is set, you can evaluate your current marketing tactics and the return on investment. So that'll be our next step. We have spent entire webcasts going over just this topic, and in fact, we have another one coming up later in September if you'd like to join us, because this is such an important topic for B2B companies. It's so important for them to do. After all, if you don't know what the return on your current marketing tactics is, and how it's related to your defined strategy goal, how are you expected to do better? So this is how we measure ROI. First, we start by establishing your first benchmark metrics, where you are right now. Second, list out every marketing tactic that you're currently using. Finally, list out every lead that can be attributed directly to each tactic. If you're not absolutely sure, it doesn't count towards that tactic. And I know that's really hard to wrap your mind around because everyone wants to say, oh, I attributed to this by giving an assist. If you can't tie it back directly to one of these things, it doesn't count. And this is where it gets tricky. Many tactics you may be using today can't be measured directly towards something like lead generation. Things like billboards, TV, radio, even banner advertisements on the web can't be measured for effectiveness in lead generation because they're not built that way. They're great as outbound tactics, but not so much as inbound, and I will talk about that in a little bit. If your goal is branding or getting visitors to your site, then outbound tactics like the ones I mentioned might be considered effective. But if they're not meeting your goals, the goals that you set just a minute ago, these tactics should be fired. So what do you do instead? It might be time to consider some new tactics. There are some marketing methods that you may not have considered for your B2B organization, but data backs these up for your marketing strategy if you are marketing toward business buyers. That is, if you're focused on getting the right prospects to your site. So let's take a look at some of those strategies and tactics. First, let's look at inbound marketing. Inbound marketing uses education-focused tactics to guide potential customers through the buyer's journey, from researching their problem, to identifying possible solutions, to making a decision about a buyer. Inbound is a strategy in and of itself, but the focus is on the customer and their needs. So if you use inbound as a strategy throughout your entire marketing organization, then you'll be going in the right direction. If you answer your customers' needs, they'll become your leads, and that's your overall business goal for marketing. Some of the data we've seen here. Companies are 3 times as likely to see higher ROI on inbound marketing campaigns than on outbound, regardless of company size or total marketing spend. And that's from HubSpot. Research from Gartner professes that properly executed inbound tactics are 10 times more effective for lead conversion compared to outbound methods. That is huge, especially if that's your overall goal. With a strategy of inbound at the core of your B2B organization, any marketing tactic can be transformed to be more inboundy. However, there are some tactics that are specific to inbound marketing teams' strategy, and we'll take a look at those now. The first new tactic you may want to consider is content marketing. So things like blogs, web pages, and SEO. They address specific needs, and that's a great start, especially if they're optimized for users on search engines. B2B marketers that use blogs receive 67% more leads than those that do not. And companies who blog receive 97% more links to their website, which is an important part of a complete SEO strategy, according to HubSpot. So what we want to do here is attract people who are already looking for products like the ones that you sell. And then you want to let them know, hey, our website, our product, our company meets your needs. And that's why you should go with us. In order to do that, you need to produce content that lets people know that information where they're at, and that is online. The next thing to do is set up your website with a host of premium content, such as ebooks, white papers, and other high-value pieces that can live behind some forms. This is called gated. In exchange for these premium pieces, visitors will give you their contact info and convert them to leads while giving them content that's valuable to them. This is a win-win situation. In addition, case studies can be a great way to show your value to new prospects. These are typically ungated, so anyone can have access to your case studies. 86% of the respondents to the 2015 B2B Buyers Survey reported that vendor-focused content such as case studies and product data sheets are triggers that influence their purchase decisions, and that's huge. So in order to gather information from people, you need to have some pieces that are behind content so you can know who they are, and then we can try out the next tactic, lead nurturing. 79% of marketing leads never convert into sales, according to HubSpot, and a lack of lead nurturing is the common cause of this poor performance. According to a Marketo benchmark study, on average, 50% of leads are not yet ready to buy when they initially come into your pipeline. Nurturing leads via targeted emails are a great way to keep them engaged with your company without being pushy and waiting until they're ready to buy before a salesperson reaches out with a personal message. It sounds so much more effective, doesn't it? Next new tactic, let's consider video. If you haven't considered video in your B2B marketing strategy, it is time. 70% of B2B buyers and researchers are watching videos throughout their path to purchase. That's up 52% in the last 2 years, according to a study by Think with Google. Video is rapidly growing as a content format, and it's important for B2B organizations to adopt this content format to showcase their products, their value propositions, and their information about their business. Engagement is super high, and prospects find it useful to gather information about their decisions, as we just heard. So video is definitely something that you should be incorporating throughout your content strategy. Finally, new tactics, social media. From a marketing perspective, social media is incredibly useful for distributing and amplifying the content that you're producing. So the content tactics that we just talked about can be amplified using social media. If you're not using it yet, it's time to get on board. It gives you a way to communicate with, both to hear and to be heard by your audience. It's also a great forum on which to establish your thought leadership strategically by answering questions, offering advice, and sharing meaningful industry research. Here are some social media outlets to consider. You might want to consider Pinterest. Overall, B2B industries showed an engagement ratio of followers to interactions of 15.88 on Pinterest, which is higher than any of the other social media outlets that were considered except for video. With the financial services industry at a 69.92 ratio, which is far above any other industry and any other social media tactic. That's huge. So utilize Pinterest in your B2B marketing strategy. It's visual, it's informative to your buyers, and engagement is super high. Keep testing it to see if it's working for you at well, because it may not work for your exact B2B industry, but it's definitely worth a try. Similar to Pinterest, B2B companies experience a very high engagement ratio on Instagram, the highest engagement of any of the platforms on the report except for Pinterest. The machinery industry stood out with a high ratio of 25 and engineering with a ratio of 44. Engage Instagram users by sharing short snippet videos, small infographic bursts, and high quality photography of your product or solution. And finally, LinkedIn. LinkedIn continues to be preferred by most B2B companies, but it has a lower engagement ratio than some of the others. That's why I'm encouraging you to try out some of these other social media platforms that you might not necessarily associate with B2B all the time. Companies have more followers on LinkedIn than on any other, so keep publishing content here to amplify your content marketing efforts. Engagement is king when it comes to social media, so that's what you really want to focus on here. So what's next? Next, it's time to implement some new tactics. What it comes down to is this. Once you've identified your business goal for your marketing strategy, it's time to look at your current markets through the lens of current methods through the lens of that goal. If the methods don't fit, or if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, it's time to consider some new methods. Specifically, consider implementing inbound marketing as an educational, beneficial marketing strategy for your clients. Consider implementing some of the new tactics we talked about, like content on your site, video, social media, some of the social media platforms we discussed. And make sure that you are able to measure the results of each of the new tactics that you put in place so you can see whether or not it's working. All right, thanks for joining us today, everybody. Now we have time for some questions if anybody has some. All right, I'm not seeing any that have come through on the chat pane, but you're more than welcome to contact me afterwards. I did send out an email to everybody right before this. You can simply reply to that if you have any questions. You can tweet at me at @OtherWestfall on Twitter, or you can always give us a call directly at Jewel Creative if you want to. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.